The information provided in this show is intended for educational and entertainment purposes only. Viewers should use their own discretion and consult with a healthcare professional for personalized guidance and recommendations. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Health Revolution. We're so glad that you're here. I'm your host, Adriana Morrison, and today is such a great day. And of course, you tuning in makes that even better. Remember, our show is all about engaging conversation, elevating health and wellness, and empowering transformation, and all that implies that falls underneath that umbrella. So no matter where you're tuning in from, how you're streaming on in, if you are catching the live broadcast, don't forget to hit the subscribe button in the channel that which you are tuning in from. And then, of course, let me remind you that our show notes at the bottom of the episode of what you're going to want to reference. All you have to do is click on the bottom. And remember, we've got some takeaway and gems for you to remember. So this is an amazing time. And of course, as we're settling in to this new season, we know that some things that keep us grounded in a way that maybe we don't want to be grounded is limits and limiting beliefs and some of the ceiling caps that we tend to find ourselves underneath. Maybe we put them on ourselves, and maybe we allow somebody else or some things to affect us and have that be put on us. So this is a fun, interesting, and a much needed conversation for today's episode, because we are going to be talking about shattering limits, breaking free, empowerment, that self-discovery. And this is very relevant to whenever we want to change the trajectory of our life. These are the tools that are going to matter. So we're going to get into it. So you are definitely in for a treat, because my next guest today, this is where she has all the receipts and she is level expert. So I'd love to introduce to you my guest, Candice J. Frazier. She is a very compassionate and empowering certified master transformational strategist. She's also a certified health coach. She's a writer, she's an artist, and she's dedicated to guiding individuals on a profound journey of self-discovery and healing. So with a deep understanding of the human experience, Candice has committed her life's work to helping others break free from limiting beliefs, embracing that self-love, and truly locking their true potential. So she brings a lot of her experience to the table and is extremely passionate, no matter how often we hear that word, about helping others actually achieve being able to break free and go from there. So we get to hear all about it. And without further ado, I have got to bring her up. Everyone, allow me to welcome Candice Frazier. Candice, welcome to the show.
Hi there. Thank you for having me on. I am so excited to be here today and have this very needed conversation, especially amongst us females, because we have been living in a society that has kept us in the darkness, I guess you could say. And we've kind of adopted that, especially if we came from trauma like I did. So
let's dive into that. I know diving into the how you are here, and can we connect, say, some of the dots of what really compelled you to have a step forward and use this as your true calling to break free, and share with us some of the things that were true elements of your story and your path?
Well, those are great questions. So the number one reason that I had to break free is I'm a mother to 3, and I have now 2 beautiful granddaughters. And I want them to be in a world where they're empowered, where they're not told they have limits because they're a woman, where they are able to embrace themselves, all of their flaws, and see them as perfections. And so the biggest crux here was learning how to love myself, because I saw from what I had been raised from and the experiences in all my relationships after that, that many people had no sense or compass of what it meant to love and care and nurture for oneself. You know, we're just kind of all running around here like chickens with our heads cut off and going, I don't know why things don't work. Why don't people love me? Why does love keep evading me? And that's where I really had to learn how to get curious rather than judgmental.
How did you know that this was, as you were really listening to your calling of being on this journey, what was the one element that really spoke to you to where you decided that you needed to trust the process? So what was the one thing in your takeaways that really drove you to hit the green light, and then you're hitting the gas pedal going this direction?
Well, there were a lot of moments where I had the, you know, my grandma used to always say, when you get too far away from God, he will bring you back to your knees to remember, to be humble, to remember to be curious. And growing up, I had a little poster on my wall that said John 3:16. And I just always remember this sense of just unconditional, pure love. But I didn't see that in the world, and I didn't see it in myself. And so it really had to be, I need to reset my groove to now as wow. And I kept waking up every day after my fallout of my divorce in 2018 and the words namaste away. And I was like, what does that mean? And then I started to say, oh, nah, I'm just going to stay away from the negative influences that have been creating this turmoil inside of me, and learn how to love myself and let go of the things that no longer lift me up. And so that's kind of how all this was born. And it's kind of just been spiraling out of like this beautiful expansion. Like I was in a cocoon and now I'm a butterfly and I'm spreading my wings and I'm all shaking them out and I'm all, woohoo, I can fly now. I'm not held back by the limits. I turned my limits into levers. And I did that by saying, if you want me here for a reason, please show me the way because I'm lost. And I tapped in, tuned into that voice within me, and just started following my intuition and owning my truth and being authentic and raw and real, no matter how uncomfortable that was, because I had to stop rejecting myself.
What makes it hard, in your opinion, and your studies and your specialization? What makes it hard for many people to gain a deeper understanding of the human experience?
Well, first of all, the information about this is it's scattered all over. But if we are in a state of survive mode, we can't assimilate any new information. We are not in a creative state. We cannot build because we're in freeze, fawn, fight, flight. So we're fighting. We're not owning it. We're not in flow. So it really takes learning how to trust the process. And people kept saying that all along, trust the process, and be like, I don't want to trust it. It sucks. But here I am on the other side of it. And I'm like, oh, I get it. Because every moment I was in darkness, I remembered the butterfly, the caterpillar going into its cocoon and spending the majority of its time, like 80% of the butterfly's time in its metamorphosis is spent in its mind. But in our reality, we spend our time in our mind comparing, criticizing, complaining, despairing, which is a survival mode. To get into thrive mode, you have to be conscious, and that takes courage. And in taking that courage, that bravery that you tap into, that is what it takes to love yourself. That's what it takes to love other people. But you can't get there if you're feeling like it's not safe to love. It's not safe to be seen. It's not safe to be heard. And being wanted for me up until my 40s was very dangerous. So it's really about learning how to reset that groove. And most people they don't know that there's a groove that needs to be reset because they're on autopilot until the pain of remaining the same outweighs the pain of change. Nothing changes. And for me, I was tired of feeling lost, not good enough, not lovable, not seen, not heard, not wanted. And that's what really dove me into birthrights. I didn't even know that was a thing. And it's in my book because, like,
and we're definitely going to get into your book, of course. And, I once heard, several people talk about the concept of life doesn't happen to you, life happens for you. So as I'm bringing this up, can you shed some light on the difference between these two, that life doesn't happen to us, but if we believe it happens for us, what does that do for us? Can you share your thoughts on that?
oh, I love that one. That's my favorite. So if we're in victim mode, we're going to think that all the bad things, the failure, the loss, the abandonment, the rejection is being done to us because we're not lovable, not good enough, not worthy. Versus if you're in a victor mindset, you're going to look at everything as happening for you. Now, I can look back now at my experiences and say, I had all these wonderful experiences that opened me up exponentially to achieve the impossible, which was thriving after being in survive mode. But it took learning that I was in a victim mindset, that I was in martyrdom archetype, and that I was actually on my hero's journey. And that's when I started to be, oh, I'm the caterpillar becoming the butterfly. The darkness has a purpose because butterflies are formed in darkness, as is all of creation. It's when we bring in the light, which is intelligence, it shines and illuminates, then we can see where we were and where we want to go. But if you don't have that flashlight, how are you going to do that? And that's where I come in.
That's true. So what helped you make that decision? So let's say viewers tuning in, anyone tuning into the episode, the show, maybe someone out there watching feels like, it's really hard to not see and focus on the things that are, that have happened, that make me feel defeated. Let's just say a person is thinking that way. For you and the times in which your mindset was there, what were specific elements, the tools that help you flip the script specifically that change that mindset? Now things are different and you're looking at things from a different lens.
Yeah, I love that question. So I have a few tools, but the one that really sticks with me, and I still do it now, is I take a breath, I step back, and I go, my now is wow. And then I start looking at all the things to be grateful for, not what's going wrong. And, in taking that step back, it always gives you space. And in that space, you can find clarity. And so when I was having these breakdowns, I started seeing that the purpose of them was to crack me open. In Japan, when a glass or a cup is broken, they don't throw it away. They forge it with gold where it's cracked, and it becomes even more beautiful. And so this belief that I was broken, that I needed to be fixed, was wrong. I wasn't broken. I was just a little bent, I was a little twisted up, and I had to unravel all that. And so that had to be this awareness of each time something would happen, instead of going, screw my life, this is the way it is, bad stuff always happens to me. It would be like instantly going, oh, where are my goggles? I'd put on what I call my wonder love goggles, and I'd be like, why is this happening for me? What is it showing me? What is it teaching me? How can I expand from this? And every time I did that, it helped me pull up out of that. And so I created the mindset, or the mind diet. And 3 times a day, every time I would eat my meals, I would play this replay of my own voice with all of my new beliefs to rewire those impaired birthrights that had actually started happening during conception and in utero, forming in the neural part of my brain. So yeah, the human experience it's an incredible and dynamic experience. But if you don't have knowledge of what you're going through, you're going to be the person that's going, why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? How come you do this? And why don't you're going to be living from expectation. And that is not fun.
So what has you seen? What have you seen? What have you seen as an element that's important to transition from autopilot to being in the front seat and putting your foot on the gas. Like,
Oh,
how can one snap themselves out of it if they yearn for it, but perhaps that they have a hard time conceptualizing that they can achieve that?
yeah. So imagine you're standing in front of a mirror and you see the adult version of you. But what you don't see that's still inside there is that 5-year-old. So, how would you speak to a 5-year-old? How would you nourish a 5-year-old? How would you play as a 5-year-old? Connect back to her and begin healing her. And so, in doing that, you now have integrated the source within, the being that is inside you, that is still there, that still has that awareness of the world from the curious wonder of a child, but also the tenderness and the sensitivity of a child. So if you can meet yourself in that space and start taking actions through your self-care, that's when everything unravels. Because when self-care becomes a priority, self-love becomes a basic formality. And that self-love, that's how you undo it all. Because when you love yourself, you're not going to allow toxic and negative influences to constantly be in your experience. You're going to look at that as, I need to learn how to set boundaries. You're not going to be pointing fingers at people for what they're not doing. You're going to be like, whoa, I need to set some boundaries.
I think part of it too is that as we're navigating through life, there are times where, if, say, those chapters where we're going through the trenches, that it just might seem defeating, that there are certain things in life or certain areas. Obviously, COVID changed the landscape for everyone, but there is the I'm having a hard time visualizing, say, somebody saying that to themselves, what the future could be like. So that self-love. How do you help others see and see the true reality of attaining their self-love for themselves?
Now that's a really good question. The biggest thing is teaching people curiosity,
Mm.
or not really teaching them, but reminding them to be curious. Be curious of why you've asked this question to yourself. Be curious as to maybe there is another way that I haven't found before. Be curious to play the positive what if game, because I had a really hard time with that one, because up until my late 40s, I had nothing but trauma to for my goalpost. I didn't know, and so learning how to be present in my own heart, trusting my own soul, that's where you have to start. Because if you can't start there, all the rest of the stuff I teach it's just going to go over your head. But it really comes to surrender. You've got to stop seeking justice.
And I love how you touch on this, because from what I'm hearing, also from what you're saying, what comes to mind for me is just that conscious connection to your inner self,
Yes.
and assessing where we are,
Yes.
and being present, but not shying away from acknowledging where we are. Like, maybe it's not okay that we're in the position that we are, and maybe we have a tough time admitting that our decisions led us to the space that we are. But it also, I think, it seems like the bigger picture is, if you give yourself permission to connect with that inner self and take in and recognize the space,
Yeah.
that could very well be the initial foundation, the stepping stone. What would you say to that?
Exactly. You've now opened up space. And that's the point, is you have to awaken and detox and accept and look at it from a positive lens and be thankful for all of the things you've went through. At this point, you got to remember, or not remember, but imagine that you're a mushroom, and mushrooms need fertilizer to grow. They need darkness to grow.
That's
Embrace it, and so that's where the Namaste Way method was. It's embracing what is. Some days I have not good days, and as prep for the show the last 3 days, I've literally been in darkness. I had a corneal abrasion. I couldn't see. I couldn't do all the things that I had planned to do. And so my expectations really got checked at the door. but I had to lean in and trust myself and trust that everything is happening for me and that everything is working out best case scenario because the universe is always conspiring in my favor. And in those 3 days, what I found within myself was I don't like not being able to connect with the outside world. But then I remembered, but I'm not alone. I have me inside my citadel. And right now, what I need to do, this discomfort and hardship that I'm experiencing, this attack on my citadel, the only people that can heal that is me. And I had to go within and nurture, close all the blinds, self care, and let go and let love lead me out of fear and find freedom. And, you know,
That's tremendous resilience. That really, truly is. And of course, and it was meant to be that you're here, of course.
yeah.
And we're going to take a quick commercial break. We will be right back here on the Health Revolution.
Coming this spring, by popular demand, the second season show on the Tour of Love.
And the E360 TV platform is saying we want the Tour of Love.
With winner of the first Global Impactor Award, Tamara Hunter, along with Emmy-winning co-host Kip Thomas.
We are going on tour, on the road. It's time. Love unites, and there is healing through connections. This is a worldwide movement, the Tour of Love.
We're back here on the Health Revolution. So glad that you're joining us today. I'm your host, Adriana Morrison, spending time, much needed time with Candice J. Frazier. She is a certified master transformational strategist, and she wears several hats. She's also a certified health coach and an author and a podcast host. And so as we are having a chat today, let me remind you, if you're tuning in on the live broadcast, feel free to share in with your comments, things, your takeaways, any nuggets, input, things like that. We always love to interact with viewers who are tuning in real time as some of the comments are coming in. And so switching gears a little bit, Candice, you are a wealth of knowledge. I love your deeper dive going into what it means for that self-discovery. And let's talk about your book. So I want to just highlight to everybody here and bring it up. This is Namaste Away and Thrive. Love the title. Tell us a little bit about how, a little bit more of the backstory in the title, and then what the book represents.
Thank you. And so the Namaste Away and Thrive, as I mentioned earlier, I kept waking up going, Namaste away. And I was like, what does that mean? And so I had gone through a pretty damaging, destructive divorce. I can't even talk. And it really, kind of brought me to my knees in many ways. And, like I say, it cracked me wide open. And I started seeing that in order for me to learn to love myself, I was going to have to stay away from the very people that were making me not feel like I could love myself, that made me feel like I had to abandon who I was and become someone else in order to be loved, in order to have that commitment in a relationship and that connection. And so I had to learn to lean into the rejection and find the redemption out of that. And so in order to reset my groove, I had to learn how to say, nah, I'm just going to stay away from that. It's not good for me. It's not in alignment with my highest good. I have I am ready to make changes in my life that are for my highest good mantra up here. And whoo, be careful what you say, because it was like trees just getting chopped down all around me. And I'm just like, what happened? I'm lost in the forest, but now I'm found. So in the journey of this, it was really learning how to love myself, to set boundaries, and to really understand, why was I still in love with someone that was so not good for me and that clearly didn't love themselves? And why was this a pattern that I kept playing out? Why was I struggling to find this? And it really was, it came back to trauma bonds and those impaired birthrights, a dysregulated nervous system, and my attachment was anxious, avoidant, insecure. So I was not relationship material. And what I was attracting was exactly what I was, not relationship material, because we're mirrors for one another, you see. And what I found through my journey is learning compassion for myself and others was the biggest thing. And that's the namaste way. Namaste means that the essence that is in you is also within me. And that very same soul, that's what makes us the same. Our essence is one. We are one. And so I can no more hate the people that have hurt me than I can hate me for hurting me, because I had my own self-harm habits with, drinking and smoking and being promiscuous and just all the things I did to love myself that wasn't love. So
I,
namaste
I
was,
love I love how you talk a little bit about that. And I as someone who also experienced divorce in my first marriage, the one thing that really struck me when I finally put forth the time to reflect in a way that didn't include pointing fingers or
yes,
finding excuses.
like that.
And I sat with the, yes, exactly. And I sat with the, those takeaways. And, I had to own up and take ownership to what I brought to the table. But part of that was that the not honoring boundaries and not
Yes.
honoring what was most appropriate for me.
Mhm.
And honestly, just any further contributions that I had. We had an episode earlier this season on divorce in particular. The one thing that was important for me eventually to come to light and understand was that I needed to raise the bar on myself, and I needed
Yeah.
to learn how to understand what boundaries meant. And underneath it all, we weren't each other's best fit, is
Yeah.
what I like to say. And that, because as it boils down to it, he would say the same thing too. Now today, different story for us. We're friends. We also have to co-parent because we have children together. But it is a journey of learning boundaries and
Yes.
and just coming to terms with what that means. Correct?
Yes, exactly. And what you just described right there leads into my next point of, this is all a classroom. We're in classroom right now. We're in class right now. And every relationship we have, whether it's romantic, platonic, whether it's with our children, it is a classroom. And it's a mirror for us to see where we aren't loving ourselves, where we need to shore up our citadel, where our fortresses within can be refortified and retrofitted and redeemed. And you can't redeem yourself by extracting it from another person, no more than you can redeem yourself by filling yourself with all these substances. That's not love. Love is not harming yourself. Love is saying, I love my temple. I'm going to honor it. And also knowing that this other person in front of you is a whole other temple, and honor that. Don't abuse that. Don't allow them to abuse themselves either. So, one of the things I found out of that relationship, I've gone no contact now with him for 18 months, because yesterday was my 18 months sober from alcohol, narcissist, and 4 months caffeine and coffee free. So I'm really cleaning up all those negative influences. But what I had to come through to get to that point is reflection. I had to, not that I had to, but I got the opportunity to talk to him after everything that happened. and make peace, provide forgiveness, get forgiveness, receive unconditional love and healing, and realize that he's not my person, but he was my person in that moment because he broke me wide open and it was him. I love him with all my heart. I'm grateful for what he did, good and bad. Everybody, my parents, anybody that's harmed me, because they kept cracking me open so I could fill myself with gold and retrofit with love, not fear, and he showed me where I was afraid of myself, where I was afraid to speak my truth.
So I love and obviously the transparency is key, and I love how you're reflecting and just really taking inventory of just what your journey was and your experience. How do you help or let me back up. What is helpful in separating the emotional piece of and PIECE is what I mean. The emotional piece of how we're responding, reacting to a situation that maybe we're having a hard time.
Yeah.
And being able to make rash decisions or a rational decision that is most appropriate for our future self. What tools do you like to utilize to separate the two so we have people have clarity?
Yeah. So that's another great lead into the next point. So remember I told you about we're all 5-year-olds in big adult bodies.
You did.
So you go back to that 5-year-old and you start getting curious about how was it at the family dinner table? What is my nervous system? How am I regulated? What are my attachments? Am I anxious? Am I avoidant? Am I insecure or am I secure? Because we want to get to secure. And that's where I'm at now. Now, I'm not fully secure because I'm still healing. So I still have moments where things pop up and I'd be like, oh, wait. Let me transmute this. Let me look at this through my wonder love goggles and see, what is this teaching me? Because where am I separating from myself? Because that's the ultimate thing. We feel lost because we're separated from ourself. Ourself is source. And that's the same with these children. So when you go back to that 5-year-old child, put yourself in the classroom and start getting curious about what is my attachment? What is my nervous system telling me? And how can I start to heal those? Because if you don't heal your nervous system or your attachment issues, you're going to keep attracting people that are going to brush up against those and trigger you and push against your boundaries. But again, it's all happening for us. It's a classroom. So it's not getting stuck on that belief reef and not staying at that well of despair.
True. So your book, Namaste, Way and Thrive, it obviously for our viewers, a collection of powerful tools and inspiring poetry. I want to go ahead and skim all the way to chapter 8, because I love how you've pieced together, the concept of releasing negative influences and being able to love yourself. Talk a little bit about the self-love gateways to alignment. How do you lead from this particular topic?
So the self-love gateways, part of the healing process that I had to go through or got to go through to heal and connect back to myself, was finding stillness and finding quiet. And meditation was where that was born. And so I was sitting in meditation and all of a sudden I saw points on the body and I saw word gateway. And I was like, gateway. And then I was like, okay, in my mind's eye, I'm like, tell me more. And all of the chakras started lighting up on the human. So I saw a human body sitting there in a meditative position and all of them lit up. And I was like, gateways. Oh my goodness. We have all these gateways that we can access to either break down our citadel or fortify our citadel. And so I came out of that meditation and I just started writing down all of the 8 self-love gateways. And it became very apparent to me that in that point, I had stumbled onto something. I didn't at that point have the awareness that I was going to be doing all this. I was just trying to heal myself. I had no idea what had happened, but I knew I needed to figure it out if I was going to stop having this cycle. And so the 8 self-love gateways became this point of how can I connect? It's I believe, I see, I speak, I love, I feel, I do, I am. And I was like, love. I am love in all of those.
And I love this. And so, you talk about meditation, you brought it up several times, and I do see and recognize how powerful meditation can be. Was that something you stumbled upon as you were cultivating your path, that this being the specialization that you were getting very specific with? Is this something that just kind of you stumbled across? Was this something that was meditation something that you were introduced to? Because I know that it's a powerful tool, but it's not something that's extremely common for everybody to tap into.
Well, especially for me, because I came from a very strict religious upbringing, and so that was a no-no. There was a lot of things that were no-nos that I do now on my spiritual awakening journey, but it was all fear-based. It was all fear-mongering. And, the bigger thing is love. And so what I found is stumbling across meditation is I had a very busy mind and I needed to learn how to quiet it. And my inner critic would just go off. And I was always in this hyper state of like running away from myself. And part of the healing, your nervous system requires you got to stop running. And the meditation for me was vital to learn how to be present in my body because of all the trauma I had experienced. I had a mild form of dissociation. When I would be triggered, I would literally escape myself. I would be like, la, 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 I'm not here. I'm not here. I'm not here. It was something I learned as a very young girl because a lot of my story that was traumatic was in my childhood when I was being abused on all levels by my caregivers. And so all of that trauma was still locked in my body and I didn't know how to discharge it. And meditation was where I discovered that because I could see where I was fighting. Like I literally had my fists up, and meditation is kind of that, and it's just breathing. And that's what it is. So that's actually what led me into understanding that trauma gets stored in our nervous system. And the only way to disperse that is through breath work. And being in meditation forces you to focus on your breathing because I focus on the breath hitting the outside of my nose and the inside of my nose, not my thoughts. And so that was a very big turning point for me.
So the breath work, which another extremely powerful tool that's integrated in the same space. Mm-hmm. As you were discovering this, and then this becomes your niche and how you come to help others. Mm-hmm. What are some things that you noticed? What are some things that you hear from those that you work with? Is there a tendency for more people to know about breath work or not? And then how do you introduce that dialogue for them to be comfortable to include it, even if their background they've never known about it before?
Well, and that's a really good question. The breath work is something that in the last 6 months specifically, that I've really been diving more deeply into. And I've done somatic release breath work. I've done the quantum hypnotherapy, and it all kind of plays in together. But if they've never been exposed to it, it's simple. You may be breathing shallow and not even realizing. And if you're not breathing a deep, full breath, you're literally creating anxiety within your body. And so it's this awareness. If you're anxious, you're most likely not breathing. And I put 2 and 2 together. When I stopped smoking cigarettes back in 2009, sorry, 1999 was something else. So 2009, I stopped smoking cigarettes. And what I realized is I had this awareness of I would take this inhale and I would hold it and then I would exhale it. And that's what box breathing is. So I put 2 and 2 together, that all these habits that we have that are not good for us all link back to self-medication in a form of either you need to do the breath work or the body work and self-care. And if you don't do those, you're going to become out of complete alignment, and your body's going to be in a state of disease, depression, despair, anxiety, antagonistic, wanting justice. So I don't know if I completely answered that question, but
no, it is. It's very complex, and I think that
yes.
this is. And I want us to dive a little bit more. First, we're going to go ahead and take a commercial break. We will be right back here on the Health Revolution. Stay tuned.
Life is so fragile, and we're constantly reminded just how fragile life can be, especially when we or a loved one is told we have cancer. Cancer survivor myself, I can tell you, we still feel very alone in this journey.
There's a study that's been showing that patients who are socially isolated have a worse prognosis, have a worse outcome than patients who are socially interconnected.
Buddies for Life is a non-profit cancer support group for those whose life has been impacted by cancer. Humor, hope, heart, and hugs.
Humor, hope, heart, hugs, and a whole lot of love.
Share this with your friends and family and support this community in every way you can. No one should face cancer alone.
I am a chemo buddy for life.
We are a buddies network.
No one does cancer alone.
Be a buddy.
And we are all here for you as a community of love.
We are chemo buddies for life.
And if you've heard 3 words, you have cancer, for yourself or someone else, you belong with us at Chemo Buddies for Life.
Healing through connections.
We're back here on the Health Revolution. We're so glad that you are tuning in with us. Don't forget to subscribe to no matter where you're tuning in from on the channel, spending some fantastic airtime with Candice Frazier. And so she is the author of Namaste, Away and Thrive. And there's something in here in the book that I do want to point out. I love where you said back in chapter 8, but let us not beat ourselves up for what we did not know. And I think for a statement like that, it's very declarative, and it also recognizes that we oftentimes don't have a backstory with all of the tools and all of the resources. But what I've come to know about your words is that, we certainly have the power to utilize tools and now create a different way and a different journey. And so this is pretty incredible. What was your takeaway as an author? What was your takeaway in completing this book? And what were some things that you learned about you? Because obviously I assume that this was yet another tool in which you continue to grow.
Well, it's interesting. This book, when I was writing it, it came in pieces. I would be getting these, what I call downloads, and I would just start writing and I'd be like, wow, this is incredible. Like, this is coming out of me, but it was me co-creating with the universe to bring forth the message to society. You cannot change someone else's self-love game, but you can change your own. And it's not about changing. It's about choosing. It's about choosing to love yourself. It's about choosing to do the work, to connect to yourself so that you can thrive. And so this book, as I was writing it, I really started to have more compassion for myself, because I realized, like, girl, you've been running your whole life and living, but not thriving. You've just been in survive mode, and you did a great job, but you never gave yourself space, and you never actually saw how strong you were in all that. Or that it wasn't that I was strong, it's trauma made me strong. I had to be strong. I had to learn how to survive, or I wouldn't have. So this book it was very triggering in a lot of ways. There was a lot chopped out of it about some of the things I went through, which is probably a good thing because I felt very vulnerable writing this book. But in that vulnerability was, again, me learning to set the boundaries of I'm okay. It's okay for me to be where I'm at. It's okay that I went through what I went through. It's nothing to be judged about. And that was me learning how to heal the trauma bond, listen to my body's wisdom and intuition to step into the higher version of myself that knew that this was possible. And, one of the things right after I published the book, it was right at the same time the pandemic happened and the lockdown. So I could not go on tour to promote this book. And I went from being really high up here, real high, and just boom, I crashed and burned. And it put me into another dark night, which happened for me because that's where book number 3 started being born. Because I was like, I wrote this book. Now it's time for me to start practicing and teaching to cement it in. And that's pretty much what I've been doing since I wrote and published it, is sharing it, creating content, writing on book 3,
What's the name of your third book?
So it's Ascend Inner Harmony. So it's about finding vibrational alignment within and stop pointing fingers outside, and just really learn how to embody and be love in every now, and look for the things in life that are wow, and let the gratitude and appreciation lead you. And interesting enough, Namaste, Away and Thrive being published wasn't the first and only book, because I've got book 3. So that was book 1. We've got book 2, which actually isn't a book, it's a journal. So, and it's accompaniment to this one, because what I was finding is I was struggling to find things each day because I was still in that old groove. I was real easily to hop tracks. So I discovered that the power of appreciation and positive focus with letting go of negative influences was the real game changer, because I created this book and from design to concept and published in a month. And so it basically it's starting your day appreciating 3 things, setting your intention of 3 positive things, and then an affirmation. And at the end of the day, you come back, your 3 savers, 3 intentions for the next day, and a brain dump if you got a busy brain. And
I love that. I definitely love that, because the neat thing is it's bite-sized nuggets.
Yep.
It doesn't create analysis paralysis. If it's it feels like a smaller task, one that we can accomplish, but obviously one that can set healthier habits, especially if we've got, if the inner critic has too big of a loud voice within our space.
Yeah.
And something like this can be attainable and doable enough to where we can slowly evolve the conditions of embracing positive mindset, even if it's not, not something that can happen overnight, but certainly something in which we can have gradual traction to be in another space.
Yeah. And that this book actually, I was working on writing it at the same time my dad/stepdad became ill at the end of the year last year. And he had a massive stroke, was in the hospital not long after Christmas Eve. And he passed away the day before New Year's, the day before I published this. And I used this book every day after that to get up, because I experienced a relationship breakup at the same time. And I was like, boy, if it rains, it just pours on Candice, doesn't it? I was like, but wait, it's happening for me. Why is this happening for me? I get to go find the gold within. And so I just, one of the savers, this was just a few weeks after my father passed and everything was falling apart. The deliciousness of receiving love and support was a savor. The satisfaction of being in flow and my passion, and how everything is always working out for me. I am free to be me. I am successful. And at night, I said, relinquish the sword. That is the reward. Energetic fight no more allows you to move forward where you are no longer an ego thief ward. So this book saved my life yet once again, because it did. It was I could be listening to this groove over here of the negative inner critic and all the blah, 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 blah. Or I could say, nah, I'm going to stay away from that. I'm going to reset my groove to be love in every now and find the wow and kapow, happiness, freedom, because the fear no longer was directing me. Love was guiding me. I wasn't worrying about, the fact that I had been disinherited by the man that had systematically shaped me in so many good and bad ways. But again, why? Because I sit in this chair now because of all of these things. And if I were to go back and change any of it, I wouldn't. I would not change it. And that acceptance is powerful because my inner critic isn't judging the past or worrying about the future. It's like, ooh, let's make gold, the Midas touch, so.
And it's almost like that level that transparency, so that it's a decision to be vulnerable, to make that declarative statement, to take initiative, if you will, of changing that course, the being able to say, so utilizing the journal is a way of creating new change. And it sounds like an incredible tool. So for someone who is wanting change, maybe that they just have yet to have the confidence to do so, what I'm gathering from it's definitely something that you can work through to then build on that voice. Yes. And be able to take an even bigger step.
Yes. And then book 3 will dive even deeper into the attachments, the nervous system, and how to really start doing the repair work on a daily basis, because it's not just a Band-Aid. This is a complete overhaul of everything that I believed myself to be. And the only way I was able to do that was appreciation and intention, because I had to get up every day and appreciate and set an intention versus complaining, criticizing, and comparing, because that didn't get me any further. And it only kept me in that vibrational energy of fear. I fear, so I complain. I fear, so I criticize. I fear, so I'm, pointing fingers. But that's not what love does. Love is creation. Love is stillness. It is being present in the moment. It is embracing all of the shame and realizing that there's nothing to be ashamed of, because everything is what it is for us to alchemize it, to transmute it, to rise above it,
Yes, very powerful statement. We're going to go ahead and take a quick commercial break. We're going to be right back. Stay tuned.
Jeff Pearson here, host of Invisible Condition, where we talk about all the people who are living and thriving with all those conditions that you can't necessarily see from the outside. Join me every Tuesday and Friday at 10 a.m. Mountain Time on E360 TV.
We're back here on the Health Revolution, spending incredible time with Candice Frazier, transformational strategist. We only have a few moments left. Candice, where can people find you as you are sharing your talents and your expertise and your nuggets to help others empower and shatter limits that they have?
Well, I primarily like to play over in TikTok land because it's the algorithm, the camaraderie, and just the flow of things over there are fun. But you can find me on Instagram and Facebook. I also have a YouTube channel, This Way to Bliss. And I have 2 websites. I have my Namaste Way and Thrive, which is where you can get information and tools. I have a couple downloadable support tools there for you, resources, and a blog, which has all kinds of valuable information. And then I have my Candice J Frazier website, which is my main website, which is where you can access my podcasts and you can see my art, and you can connect to all of the websites from there to connect with me further. And you can also schedule appointments from that site. You can book a coach one-on-one call with me, and we can connect and meet and greet and learn more about each other and see if I'm a good fit for you, because I love to help people, but I know I can't help everyone, and there's only one me. So I really trust that Source is going to bring me the soulmates that are seeking a way out of their darkness, that they want to embody harmony and let go of chaos. And so
I love that you wear a lot of hats, and we really focused on the empowerment piece and some of the nuggets of allowing people to utilize to begin that breakaway process. And so we could have spoken all day long, and darn it, we're running out of time. Candice, I really appreciate your time today. It was incredible to have you and just your wealth of knowledge in this space of empowerment. So it's so good to have you here.
So thank you very, very much. And I also wanted to add too, there will be upcoming retreats and workshops. I've been invited to a local gym to host meditation classes, so I'm preparing all that. And I have a live community-based app that I'll be launching here very shortly, where you can connect with community. You won't have to be on any of the social media apps, which we all know can, ruffle lots of feathers. So I've pulled all of everything off, and I want private community. I want people to feel safe in this sacred space. It's a judgment-free zone. I'm going to love you as you are and lift you up to your highest version of yourself. And I'm just super excited to be, part of this, human experience that we're in.
Fantastic. And so obviously she's going to have all of her information on Candice J. Frazier, CandiceJFrazier.com. Make sure that you tune into that and have your takeaways on the show notes. And as everyone is, as we are wrapping it up, we are out of time. Don't forget that our show has a website, www.thehealthrevolutiontv.com. And you can certainly subscribe to our newsletter, where we're listening to inputs. We're coming up with updates of things on the horizon. In addition to, we're interested in hearing topics that really just allow you to lean in. We are on Tuesdays and Thursdays, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So glad that you're tuning in. And until next time, for everyone, take care. We will see you then.